Hey everybody, how are y'all doing on this beautiful Tuesday? I hope everybody's doing alright and having a wonderful day. Now, I've contemplated on making a video about this. It just brings up a lot of bad memories of that day and everything, and I was like, might as well, might help somebody out listening to it or whatever, or just give people insight of what happened that day. But we just recently had a 13-year anniversary of the April 2011 uh, super tornado outbreak here in the South. And I know one of my earlier videos I made mention of this, but I wanted to go into more detail about it. But a couple of days before what happened here in Alabama, they had a 2-day mini tornado outbreak, and not trying to diminish what everybody went through that day and everything. Anytime a tornado touches down, it's pretty rough and rough for everybody all the way around that's in the path of it. But a couple of days before that, I think they had something a little over 100 tornadoes touch down in a 2-day period, and but most of the meteorologists and tornado chasers were more worried about toward the end of the month, the outlook for that on the severe weather and everything. And the day before all this started, my cousin called me up and was wondering, if I wanted to come stay the night and help him out with some stuff the next day. I was like, sure, why not? He was one of those. He repainted and fixed up damaged vehicles for people. If it's been in a wreck or had dents or whatever, if they just wanted it repainted in general, he would fix them up, repaint them. And he had a bunch of leftover parts he wasn't using, and had two big old piles that were big enough for a pretty good bonfire to get going. He wanted to take it off to the scrapyard and wanted me to help him out because it was going to take a while to do it. So I was like, sure, why not? And I stayed in the guest house part of. I stayed in the guest house because he's a single dad of 2 kids, and they only had 3 bedrooms. I had no problem staying in the guest house. And then on the other side of me was where my other cousin lived. Anyway, I woke up that morning about 5:45, 5:50, and rolled over and looked out. You could see it was getting light outside and everything. It was pretty calm out there. And I was going to roll back over, get a few more minutes of rest and sleep before we started the day. And next thing you know, I started hearing stuff hit the windows and the side of the guest house there. And I thought it was maybe my cousin throwing some rocks or just making some noise to get me up and whatever, just to get the day started. And next thing you know, the guest house started shaking and heavier. So I started noticing heavier stuff started hitting the windows and the side of the house. I was like, I got to think, he wouldn't go through that effort to, damage or break something just to wake me up or to annoy me a little bit. And I looked back out the window, and the tree next to where I was at, the top of it was just swirling around. And the tree was bending all different ways. Like, yeah, that's something going on here. And by the time I was able to get changed quickly and put my shoes on, I made it to the front door in time to see the cousin on the other side of me running into my other cousin's house. And I was right behind him. And, because how many people it's going to run out in their underwear just to get away from something unless something serious is going to happen. So I get in there and I was like, what's going on? And my other cousin that came running down said that He worked the night shift at that time. He said, he went to the bathroom, laid down. By the time he laid down and looked up, his whole roof had peeled off his trailer and been flung into the field. And that's when he knew it was time to get out of there. And I was standing in the living room looking out the window, which I knew that was done during a tornado and everything. You really don't want to be by a window looking out. And the tornado wasn't on the ground for very long. And then it lifted up and retouched down a few cities over from where we was and turned into a big old F5, completely destroying the town. And anyway, we stayed in there for a couple hours till we find out, hey, it's safe to come out. And that was the only tornado our little town got during this whole event. And we went to my other cousin's house, which is about 2 miles from us, but we had to cut our way through from all the trees and power line poles down and everything. And we were sitting outside, sort of chit-chatting. You could hear in the clouds this rumbling noise, like it was constant thunder going off or like it's constant thunder, or even some of it even sounded like a train going down the railroad tracks. It was so loud. And the next day, the cleanup started. And I don't know, I'm sure this happens everywhere when their disaster happens, but down here in the South, especially that day, everybody was coming together to help each other out. There was people who lost everything still coming out there to help others out, having to cut trees out of the roads, helping people clean up from where their houses got destroyed and everything. And the preacher where I went to church at that time said, hey, anybody want to volunteer to help some of those who just lost everything? And I was part of that group that went to Rainsville, because over there was 2 tornadoes that came together and formed the monster F5 that came through. And at that, we went to one of my ex-friends' house. At that time, we were friends, and we ended up becoming ex-friends since then. But we went to his house to help him out, and they had a pecan tree fall on their house, and that was the only thing that kept the house being lifted up and through by the tornado. And they was wondering, if we'd help them find his aunt and uncle. And sadly, we found them in the field behind where they lived. They'd been sucked out of their house and thrown and unfortunately killed. And another amazing thing I saw that day was all the churches coming together. It didn't matter what denomination they was, what belief they had, and all that. They was coming together and cooking food. And cooking food for everybody, taking in donations, people who may need stuff that lost everything, and even had people going out, searching rescues and helping clean up. And it was just a long day for everybody. And I think there was somewhere close to over 200 tornadoes, give or take, that had touched down in Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. But there wasn't a spot in Alabama from the top to bottom, one side or the other, that wasn't affected by a tornado. And even though 13 years later, there's still places you can go that, people never move back or businesses never reopen. And you can still see places where the marks of the tornado still there. There's still reminders even all these years later. But it was a long day for everybody. It was pretty rough. People saw and found things that will stick to them for the rest of their life. And it's definitely one of those not near fuel moments that you wouldn't want anybody to go through. But anyway, I hope everybody has a good rest of their day. And I will see y'all in the next video.